Hi, I'm Doug Ireland of Team Hockey Stick Combat Robotics, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my most recently built 1-pound ant-weight robot named Instigator. Instigator is quite possibly my most favorite robot that I've ever built for just so many reasons. First of all, it's got this just great paint job, courtesy of my mother, Lorraine Ireland. 95% of this robot was built in about 12 hours, about 4 or 5 days before the competition. Basic building techniques. I used cutting boards. You know, it's literally just about a 1/4 inch thick cutting board that I went and I picked up. There's nothing too special about it. I had this green stuff sitting around, and it just made me kind of want to do some sort of lizard type themed robot, and I ended up picking out the name Instigator, which it just works so good because it's got a hockey pun in it too, and Insti-Gator because it was built quickly. So. But I ended up just keeping the CAD that I used. I was planning originally use the CAD for the 3D print, but it served a purpose to kind of just size out all the components in size and to make sure that the drum was aligned and everything. So it worked out pretty good, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Instigator uses FingerTech 33:1 Silver Sparks for drive, a 300 milliamp hour 3S Nanotech battery, tiny ESCs from FingerTech, and a way the heck too big Amazon ESC for the weapon. You can see the FingerTech motors there, and I also got a FR Sky transmitter there. Terminal blocks from FingerTech and a FingerTech switch tucked back there. The drum uses a brushless motor, which you can kind of see here. Half of it has been glued into this section of the drum, and the other half, the corresponding magnets, have been attached here. You can order a kit type drum like this from kitbots.com. Basically, it came pretty much exactly like this, ready to go. All I had to do was run these wires, which I can't even find at the moment. There they are. All I had to do was run those wires to that brushless controller, and I had a functioning weapon. The tricky part comes in making sure that these two things are reasonably aligned and that you have the spacing right. I had to throw in an extra chunk of cutting board material just to make sure. You can tell there's very little space between these motors. I might have been able to squeeze that so that it's sized properly, but I mean, you can tell it still works. It spins nice and freely. You can't hear any crunching really. It works really well. It actually kind of works better than when I first started at the competition. You can tell the drum has been taking some chips out of it. You know, there's some chunks missing, but mostly for courtesy of Speed Wedge. But you know, it's mostly quote unquote cosmetic. It doesn't really affect how it works. The teeth could probably use replacing, which those are just bolts. It doesn't look like any of the threads on it. Come on, focus. Have been bent, so that's good news. And if not, these are still unused, so it has quite a bit of life left in it. But what doesn't have a lot of life left in it, unfortunately, with this great paint job on it, is this chassis, which is it's cracked. It is cracked. It's this whole panel is going to have to be replaced, and I'm figuring at that point, if I'm going to replace that panel, these motor mounts, they're not. You can tell they're not really neat. This was kind of, like I said, this was it's kind of put together quickly. It functioned. It did its job. You know, that was what I was mostly concerned with, making it look half decent and making it work, which I achieved both those things. You'll see how it ended up doing at the competition in just a few minutes, but yeah, overall, it didn't take a lot of damage other than this major chunk in the first fight, which you'll see coming up. And yeah, I was really happy with it. Instigator's first fight was up against a robot called Lurch. It's where it took that big chunk out. Lurch comes from Sean Lamoth at Monster Bots Combat Robotics, and it's one of the most interesting robots I've ever fought against. Rather than wheels or legs, it relies on the gyroscopic forces and the vibrations induced by his two spinning weapons, which are just slightly off balance, and that kind of allows him to get depending on which motor he revs up or spins up or slows down, it allows him to kind of veer left and right. And he gets a big weight bonus. He gets a 50% weight bonus because he doesn't use any wheels. It's technically a shuffler, so he gets a 50%. So he actually weighs 1.5 pounds in a 1 pound weight class. So it was quite an intimidating opponent, and it just, on top of all that, the thing sounded mean. Just sounded scary when it spun up, and especially because it was constantly spinning up and spinning down and spinning up and spinning down, because that's how he drives. So, but anyways, it was both the robots' first ever fights. So let's see how it went.
Uh-oh.
Oh, here we go. Whoa, whoa. Oh no!
Oh. Uh-oh.
It's movement, Lurch!
Oh, is it stuck?
First number.
Where's your feet gone?
I think you.
Oh, they're inside. Your feet are gone.
They're blocking the bar.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a knockout. Yeah.
So for me, that fight went great. I got some good hits on him and managed to avoid getting hit in the wheels or back with his weapons about as much as was possible, although I did take that one chunk. He did get that one chunk out of me, as you saw, but I did bend the heck out of his armor, as you can see here. Lurch actually managed to completely crack the back left side of Instigator's side panel. He was just a few centimeters away from hitting my switch and weapon ESC. Thankfully, when I got underneath him, I managed to knock in his little brushes, jamming his weapons, and leaving him motionless, giving Instigator its first win by knockout against what was likely the most dangerous ant-weight at the tournament, including Instigator. I got a little bit lucky. Turns out that Sean actually put Lurch in upside down. He didn't even realize that until the match had already started and I was on the attack. But I'm sure Lurch is going to be back for the next competition, and I think it'd be a great fight if I got to play him with Instigator again. But, on to Instigator's second fight against Speed Wedge 1.
We have 3 minutes on the clock and the box is locked. 3, 2, 1, fight robots, fight!
Come on, spin up. Let's see it.
I want to spin.
Uh-oh. Yay.
Woo!
It's going to be a close fight.
You're playing the scene game. I know what you're doing.
Ooh, uh-oh.
Oh, you're back. You're back. You're good. We're good.
Andrea came in second in the 1 pound nationals in Saskatoon.
Uh-oh.
BotBrawl is her home competition. Uh-oh. Looks like Instigator has lost his drum. Looks a little
And a side of drive.
not straight.
Oh, we're back. We're back. Yes. Oh,
Spoke too soon? Doug seems to be having a hard time with wheels today. Ooh.
Spin, please.
1 minute.
Let's see.
Watch Oh! 30 seconds.
Oh, well, that's it. Let's go. Spin.
Instigator is so close to spinning up. Kind of looks like a broken phase wire.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's the match, guys. That's it. Good fight.
So Instigator was still suffering from its previous fight, and a few good whacks from Wedge knocked the top panel loose, which made it really difficult to drive when it was upside down. Either the repeated rams from Wedge 1 or the hits from Lurch in the previous fight had knocked loose the wires leading to the weapon, and it wasn't really spinning, as you could tell. The Wedge dominated in the control and strategy categories, and the judge handed it to Andrea and Wedge 1. I resoldered the weapon wire, attached the top armor with a thicker screw, and Instigator was ready for its next fight. This time it was fighting a robot named Flipperdoodles, driven by Sarah Bird, and I do recommend sticking around for the whole fight, as it picks up in pace strongly during the last minute as I deliver what's likely the biggest impact I've ever dished out with a robot. Instigator versus Flipperdoodle.
3, 2, 1, fight, robots, fight!
Tides have turned for Instigator. Wow, the axle came right out of the gearbox. The axle is still attached to the wheel.
Still translated. 130. It's a sign for buckets. Still surviving. 1 minute.
Flipperdoodles is still alive, somehow. Don't break the camera!
Oh, no, it's dead. I'm done.
10,
9, 8.
All
Alright.
It hit the roof twice. I've always wanted to do that, And Sarah was nice enough to give me a memento from the fight, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the little memento she gave me is equal to any trophy that I've ever gotten. I've always wanted to hit the roof with another robot. Like, I remember seeing at one of the first competitions when I went down to the Northeastern Robotics Club's Motorama, and I think it was might have been Solaris or Alos or one of those old 12-pound or 30-pound robots launched a robot, and ever since I saw it, I've wanted to figure out a way to build a robot to do it myself. So that was kind of like a dream come true. But Instigator was basically fine after this fight. Quick battery swap, and it was ready to take on a rookie robot driver. It was a rookie robot team, in fact. It was a robot named G-Force. So let's see how he does. The guy driving it, little kid, was 8 years old. So let's see how it went.
3, 2, 1, fight robots, fight!
So G-Force is a first-time builder being driven by an 8-year-old. Has a titanium wedge, pretty beefy. Oh! Keep going, buddy. Just got decapitated. Uh-oh.
Alright, back, over.
Oh!
We're gonna, I'm gonna stop. Alright, back, over. That's it. We're gonna, battery too much
We do not want any battery explosions.
That's mobility, not you.
Yeah.
You're good.
Hey, great fight, man. That was awesome. I was really worried. Guys, that was a great entry.
So G-Force drove very well. I could tell his strategy was to try and get underneath me. He had quite the speed advantage, and he was out driving me at the onset. So I decided to kind of like back off and let him come to me, and just make sure my weapon was pointed at him, kind of tombstone or rebuilding style. And sure enough, I got a little pass. I took a little jab at him with him, and I managed to rip off his top armor. At that point, you can kind of hear the judges talking about ending the fight because his battery was really exposed. And I saw that, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to make a robot explode right now. But you know, just as Ravi called the match, G-Force kind of drove underneath me as I was trying to back away, and even though I'd already spun the weapon down, the momentum had kind of wrecked the wheels, came in contact with. And that was the end of the fight, and G-Force was kind of broken after that, and unfortunately the young man was initially quite upset. I mean, he'd just been eliminated from the competition and everything, but the crowd was nice. They gave him a good cheer, which he definitely had earned. He was a really good driver. It was a bit unfortunate that he had to come up against Instigator, but the nice thing actually was that the kid stuck around and he cheered Instigator on for the rest of the competition, which was a really good feeling. So props to him and his dad and his sister for such a great first outing, for being such great sports, and I hope I get to see them at a competition again. But again, Instigator was basically unharmed, so quick battery swap, and it was up to the losers bracket final against the pesky Panhandler. Panhandler was made out of a Rubbermaid dustpan. It was driven by a guy named Garrett Campbell, and it was a seriously formidable opponent. Not only is he an excellent driver, but the dustpan is actually quite tough and resistant to attacks, and he's reinforced it with a big chunk of titanium at the back. So let's see how the Gator can handle a dustpan.
This is the last match for one of these robots.
Fight robots, fight!
Panhandler has a titanium armor plate inside the pan against spinners, just like this. It's so large that it makes it impossible.
What the heck? God.
Yeah. Instigator's bottom panel seems to be falling away.
You can see the chip that Instigator gave Panhandler in the front.
Probably a close fight. But Instigator needs more damage. Ooh, yeah, look at that. There's a nice gap in Panhandler. That's pretty new. Oh! Panhandler's titanium backplate has gone astray. The Instigator can get to those wheels, those soft, juicy wheels. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Yeah.
1 minute.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Instigator's getting some hits on those Panhandler's wheels. The Panhandler seems to still be okay.
"30 seconds. 15. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the match, guys. What a good fight. Doug, can you get your weapon?
This match is going to the judges.
What a close match this was. I honestly thought Garrett might have had it in the bag, but I think the judges decided that maybe me being in Panhandler's pan wasn't necessarily him controlling me, as I was still doing damage from that position, which was part of my strategy, or maybe it was just the damage category in and of itself. Either way, it was a great match. I just wanted to thank Garrett Campbell and Jennifer Campbell and Panhandler for such a great match, and for being great competitors all around. They built some truly crazy robots, including a pumpkin and a skull, and you can't really tell that they're robots until they start driving around, so they're great competitors. But I was absolutely pumped to be through to the Antweight final, where I would once again be facing off against Andrea Valenzuela and Speed Wedge 1, who are at this point undefeated.
2, 3, fight robots, fight!
Well done. Thank you, Andrew. Very nice of you.
I would love to see it before something do this.
Could have re-geared for torque. Come on!
One of the wheels isn't working.
One of my wheels is a little...
One of hers isn't working.
Come on, get going! You're welcome. Anytime.
Stay on it.
Dear finger tech.
So I knew she was going to be able to get under me, and I also knew that I needed to avoid that as much as possible. So I tried to stick to the seam and ready areas of the arena to try to get her wedges caught up and give me the opportunity to come in with a hit. She kind of noticed her calling me out for doing that at one point, but I was still feeling out the ropes with the limits of how quickly I could turn Instigator without being affected by the G-force of the drum. And I decided that no matter what, I was going to try to stay aggressive as much as possible and hope that I could take the aggression category along with the damage category. And I honestly felt at the time that I kind of lost the fight, but looking back at it, watching the replays, I can see why I managed to swing the judge's decision barely on that fight. So, plus I think the fact that it was double elimination, I had to eliminate her twice to win, that kind of factored in my favor. So I got a chance at a championship for the second time out of my 3 most recently attended events, which I was just psyched for, and it still felt really surreal. So let's see what happened in the grand final of the Antweight Championship for BotBrawl Robot Combat Event 3 meeting styles.
Alright, on the count of 3, guys. 1, 2, 3!
Full spin.
Uh-oh.
Yo, wait, who's playing that Marcus? Is that you? Well, he was playing Warriors while we were in this. I genuinely popped up. I'll get the oh yeah, that was like me to throw out.
Stuck in a rut on the floor.
If you stop the motor, can you drive?
Wheels are moving, it's just the
Yeah, I'm just not sure if it's the gyro that's holding it in place. Nice.
oh my goodness.
1 minute!
There's a lot of screws on this one. I don't even know when I'm tightly if you can buy a few more hits, we have one. We have at least one. If he wins one, then it's instant win for him to
It's a neat little dance.
Yeah, let's get it.
Sorry, I was trying to get up. No, that's just her pointing straight on the floor.
So it was a split decision for Speed Wedge 1, who took the championship. Congratulations to Andrea and Speed Wedge 1. That was a great match. I think if you can understand why I won the first fight, then you can see maybe why I lost this fight. I didn't maintain anywhere near the same amount of control, and I spent a lot of the fight upside down, struggling to make any contact with my weapon. She's just such a good driver. She's excellent in the pits and fun to compete against. So I was honored to lose to Andrea. I've had a fight with her every competition so far, and our fights are always entertaining. So once again, congratulations to Andrea and Speed Wedge 1. But that wraps it up for Instigator's fights. The drum is still in great shape, as I mentioned before. But as this side of the chassis is cracked, I think I'm just going to end up rebuilding the whole thing. I kind of want it to be thinner as well and save some weight. I like these size wheels. I like these wheels specifically, actually. And I just, on top of all that, I feel like it could have also been a bit lower to the ground, make it a bit easier to catch a wedge or something. And also, ideally, I'd like the option of being able to fit wheel guards, like going around the wheels, or maybe like a wedge kind of tail, like a duck style tail. But yeah, you know, Gator's got to have a tail, right? But anyhow, I'm just so happy that I was able to place at a tournament for the second time in a row. I hit a robot into the ceiling and knocked out 2 other robots. I want to say thanks very much to Ravi Babulal, Kevin Burchell, Marcus Quintillion, Andrea Valenzuela at Ports Lab, and everyone at BotBrawl for the excellent meetup and all their hard work, as well as all the other builders. Make sure to check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/teamhockeystick. If you're interested in building your own robots, you can always visit fingertechrobotics.com, servocity.com, kitbots.com. I definitely want to give them a shout out for the excellent drum. You can also visit the BotBrawl Facebook group or BotBrawl.ca for all the latest up-to-date information on the interior BotBrawl. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep your stick on the wall.